Have you ever thought why dreams occur? Have you ever thought why it's easier to conjure up certain thoughts and it takes an extreme amount of mental stamina and endurance to conjure up other thoughts? Have you ever thought why it's easier to remember memories that have meaning to it? Well, psychology has all the answers to these questions. My name's Ethan Asante, and throughout Psychology 1101, I've learned an immense amount of information regarding to psychology. And in this TED Talk today, I will be delighted to share some of the information that I've learned throughout this class through the period of the summer semester and other essential information that I know concerning to psychology. And coming into Psychology 1101, I had some misconceptions concerning certain psychological principles. For instance, my sort of idea of consciousness was just this more broad overview of just being the sense of being awake and being conscious. However, there's more aspects to that nature. There's four basic principles concerning to consciousness. And these four basic principles concerning to consciousness are intentionality, which is the idea of having a central focus on an object. Unity, which is the idea of integrating all aspects from your senses to create this one unique idea of what you're perceiving. And then there's selectivity, which is kind of tuning out the ideas that are sort of irrelevant to what's your mind supposed to be concentrating on. And lastly, there's transience, which is your overall idea of flowing ideas like in a river or a lake, in which one idea leads to another and another and another. And there's also different levels of consciousness. So there are three main levels to consciousness. The first level is minimal consciousness, which is a low level kind of sensory awareness. And then the second level is fully consciousness, which is awareness of one's own mental state. And the third level of consciousness is self-consciousness, which is awareness, a heightened awareness of one's self and one's self-awareness and one's action. And all these kinds of consciousness in your mind switch around and you go through them on a day-to-day basis. Oh, something that surprised me this semester concerning to psychology was the principle of consolidation, in which the brain stabilizes memories. I thought this was really interesting because in high school and throughout college, I know students like to pull all-nighters in which they get no sleep in order to prepare for a test or a project. And they think they're helping themselves because they're getting the work done. I think they're learning more information for what they're going to be tested on. However, this is kind of a kick in the head because they're not getting the consolidation that they need in order to stabilize the memories that they've studied over the course of their unit or semester in which they're trying to study for their final exam or get this project done. And I think it's important to get the amount of sleep that you need so you're able to stabilize those memories and learn what you're supposed to learn so you're prepared for the test you have. A psychological principle that I've seen throughout my life right now is the topic of operant conditioning. I can see operant conditioning throughout my life because there's an association between a behavior of mine and a consequence. And I've seen this example in particular in my life when I go into my car, and right when I go in and I start up the engine, and let's say I step on the gas pedal, and when I step on the gas pedal, I'm not wearing my seatbelt. I hear beep, 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 and the car's telling me to put on my seatbelt. This is an example of operant conditioning because there's a use of a stimulus, and a stimulus is used to kind of decrease the behavior. And this is positive punishment because it decreases my behavior by adding an unpleasant stimulus, which therefore makes me want to put on my seatbelt. Another psychological principle that applies to my life is sleep. When one sleeps, certain areas of the brain have heightened activity and certain areas of the brain have reduced activity. When I dream, my amygdala, and when everyone dreams, their amygdala has heightened activity. And this can contribute to heightened emotions when one dreams and heightened senses of feeling of sadness or excitement in one's dream. And your brain also has a reduced amount of activity in the prefrontal cortex, and this can lead to like pre less activity when it comes to critical thinking, decision making in a dream. That's why it seems very random, and other aspects of just overall, thinking. And you can see this, for example, in my dream. I had a dream where I was feeling the emotion, the fear, the excitement, and everything, but I was just clueless on where I was going and what was going on and what was the overall purpose of why I was doing this. But it's due to the certain activity, certain reduced or heightened activity in certain parts of the brain. And a topic that I will use in my day to day life going forward is the topic of self esteem and how it pertains to me. So in class, we learned that self esteem is your own view of your worth and your abilities. And I think it's essential to keep a good self esteem or to develop a stronger self esteem by having a good support group around you and knowing your own worth and trying not to base it on how others view you. So it's important to have those good connections around you with, less toxic people, more positive relationships, everything that pertains to creating a good, strong support group that has your back when you're feeling down. So as I go to college and as I venture off in different aspects in life, I think it's essential that I still keep in touch with my old friends back in high school and my family. But I also need to remember that it's important to build strong connections with my classmates or people in my dorm hall as I'm going forward in life. And even in the world, in my career, in my day-to-day career life, it's also important to talk to people, build those connections because they'll know you the best and they'll help you understand who you are and they'll help you see your own abilities. And negative people around you can kind of pull you down and say you're this and that and create lies about yourself that are not true. So it's important and it's essential that you keep good people around you and also know your self-esteem because you're the one running your life. You're the CEO of your own life. So why is it that someone else's comments can offend you? And so it's essential that you keep yourself and you know your worth and your value going on in life. In my academic life, I'll also keep note of how repetition is essential to remembering information and how it's essential to transporting short-term memories into long-term memories. So if I have a test or an exam that I'm studying for, I will repeat concepts that I'm not 100% sure of so that they're moved from my short-term memory to my long-term memory. So that's why it's important to use flashcards, go on Quizlet, all those aspects of test taking resources that can help you before your test occurs. So repetition, sorry about that, is essential to what you need to know. It's to what you need to know for your test coming up. Also, to give a little bit more detail on how repetition works, it works by enacting strong chemical interactions at the synapses of your neuron. And me being a biochemistry major, it's essential that I have a good memory when learning many of my concepts or processes when it comes to biology and chemistry. So I'll be using this technique of repetition while I'm studying or trying to remember very, very intricate terms. So it's very essential that I do this to know what I need to know for my exams, projects, lab reports, and etc. coming up. And also to add on, I think I could use repetition as a very useful tool as my career as a physician in the future. Because physicians have to measure and, remember many, many very intricate terms. I can repeat certain phrases and terms in my mind or write them down so I can memorize them and store them on long-term memory. But thank you, audience, for listening to my TED Talk. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a pleasure being in Psychology 1101 for the summer term. I hope to meet every single one of you one day in person. Thank you.